Hey guys, Bjimson Darius, aka BJ here from Dear Dad Podcast. Now, when I started this podcast, I wanted a platform where I can record and upload my content very easily. I didn't want to go through any hoops to get my podcast out there. When I did start my podcast, I was on a different platform. But after I was introduced to Anchor not once, not twice, but over 3 times by my close friends, I decided to give Anchor a try. I must say, I absolutely love it. Not only is it easy to use, but I am able to record, edit, post, and publish all my episodes right there on the app or the site. I was able to transfer all my episodes onto Anchor in less than 5 minutes. That, for me, was unbelievable. Oh yeah, here's the best thing of all. It's free. It is free to use. Yeah, I know. That's crazy, but take my word on this. It's true. Using Anchor has definitely made podcasts so easy. Trust me, you'll love it. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome to the Dear Dad Podcast. This is the place where we address dad dynamics and discuss personal experiences, stories, and poem submissions to help provide a platform for healing while simultaneously uplifting one another. Let's change the dad narrative all around. Let's go. Let's grow. Hello, you beautiful people. My name is Bjimson Darius, aka BJ, and today I have another guest for you, a special guest for you. And this guy we met over Instagram, just trying to get to know each other. And I was like, I want to get to know your story. I want to get to know your dadhood story. Again, I'm not gonna take the shine away from you. I'm gonna introduce you guys to. Before I introduce you guys, I'm sorry. He is a producer, of author. You know, he has so much criteria. He has so much under his belt. But I was a little bit excited, so I'm gonna introduce you guys to Frank Meyers.
Hey, thanks, man. I'm Frank Meyer, and yeah, it's always kind of tough when people say he's because there's like a whole bunch of stuff that follows. I guess I'm a multitasker, but I'm a musician and I'm a writer. I've written a bunch of books, and all of my bands have made albums, and I've toured and done all that stuff. But at some point, being both a musician and a writer, 2 really risky job careers to fall into. When I had my kid and became a father, I was kind of like, all right, man, you can't just be like driving around in a van with a bunch of punk rockers and writing articles about rock and roll and calling that like an adult life. So I ended up sort of taking my background in production and writing and becoming essentially a TV and digital producer. And so I sort of, over the last 15 years, added that to my resume and started off working on websites and moved into TV and then moved into doing app content and digital stuff. So yeah, I do directing, I do producing, I do editing, I do music, I write songs, I play about 10 different instruments. And since COVID, everyone's working from home now, so I kind of basically took my little apartment in Long Beach and turned it into like a one-stop shop production studio. So I've been scoring movies from here, I've been editing my newest documentary film, I've been cranking out music with all sorts of other musicians that can record from home, and just kind of trying to get through this by staying productive and creative. And of course, I live with my daughter, who's now 16, so she has to put up with all of that.
Man, you have your handful. Handful. You doing whatever that you need to do, and I applaud that. There's never an end game, and never a dull moment, because there's always something for you to do. There's always something for you to grab onto, to just like either editing, producing, writing, all that stuff. You have that in your background, so there's never a dull moment for you, is there?
Yeah, no, but also I think it's to make the parallel to fatherhood, being an artist and especially being a creative type now in 2020, in the midst of all of this, sort of quarantining and people having to refocus, you have to be able to pivot. That's sort of like the thing that I've really learned about myself over these last 6 months. And something I really started learning as a father is like, you have all these set ways of doing things. And then when you have a kid, that all of it's gone. You have to your sleeping schedule is different, your food schedule is different, the amount of time you spend like on yourself and your own interests and hobby and drinking with the guys, all that stuff changes because you're a father and your priorities change. And I found that when all this sort of new way of living hit in the last 6 months, once again, I had to kind of go, well, how do I take what I do and pivot a little bit and still be able to try to make some money, to make some money, and also be able to keep myself busy. And, I don't want to spend like 6 months binge watching TV. I mean, I could, but I have spent quite a bit of time. But for me, all this sort of stress that we're under in society right now, I deal with it by playing music and being creative and putting my head into work.
Awesome. All right, so let's dive into your dad. Let's dive into your dad. Let's get a perspective of your journey with your dad. Tell me about your dad.
Well, I have 3 dads. I have a really weird sort of story that I'm sure some folks out there can relate to, but I haven't found too many. Altogether, if you want to get technical, I have 7 parents.
Okay.
Now, you're doing the math and you're like, I don't know how that's possible. I'll give you the quick breakdown, which is my mom and my dad got married when they were really young and probably shouldn't have gotten married. They had me. They immediately got divorced. It was the 70s, and apparently in the 70s, people just were like, had some wacky thoughts of the way of dealing with the parenting and responsibility, because when my mom got remarried to the man that became my stepdad and essentially raised me, they went to court with my real dad and legally adopted me from one dad to the other, so that when I was born with the very Irish-sounding, Irish Catholic name Francis Joseph Mahany the fourth. But then after that little court thing, I got adopted to Chris Meyer, and I became Frank Mahany. My last name became my middle, Meyer. And years later, I said to my dad, I go, okay, I still don't even understand why you guys went to court and did all that stuff, but whatever. It was the 70s. It was a loosey-goosey time. And I understand why you took my last name and made my middle, but why did Francis become Frank? And he goes, I didn't want you to get your ass kicked in school. All right, well, that's solid reasoning. Fair enough. But anyway, so then cut to another 10 years, they get divorced. My mom gets remarried to my second stepdad. And then along the way, my dad gets remarried. My first stepdad got remarried. Then my dad gets divorced and got remarried again, putting me at 7, count them, 7 parents.
That's a mouthful.
So each one of, meaning I kind of have 3 different versions of tell me about your dad, because they were 3 very, very different people. And I won't be super long-winded, but my dad who's my blood dad, really, I don't think was all that interested in being a dad. Super nice guy. We've stayed close my whole relationship. I love him and everything, but it just like, he was just like a rambler. You know what I mean? He just went on. He's a working guy, a rambling guy. He just kind of went on to other things. He stayed in my life, but I just don't think that was his bag. My stepdad was super in the mix and responsible, and has really been the guy who raised me. And that's sort of what I consider to be like my father figure. Right. And then my second stepdad was kind of a guy that married my mom that like didn't really want kids, but like there we were, and he tried his best, and he was a good dude, and he didn't do anything wrong. He just was kind of there. Yeah. He did do some stuff along the way that I don't think he realized how sort of important it was. Like there's a few things with my brother and I that sort of sent us on our career path that actually my later stepdad sort of was the one to instigate that stuff. Okay. But it wasn't necessarily because he was trying to be a great dad. Okay. I don't think he had much interest in that, but whatever.
Wow, that is a mouthful. I mean, I would say I have, a whole clan worth of siblings, but when it comes to dads and moms, parenting, I've never heard that dynamic in itself. That's new for me. Yeah. That's a whole lot new for me.
Well, and it was strange because when I became a father, I had 3 totally different examples, or if you want to see them as role models, or sometimes you look at it as like the things not to do. Mm-hmm. But I had 3 totally different parenting styles that I grew up with, and 3 male father figures in my life who were completely different from each other, completely different in how they treated me and my brother. And so it definitely gave me a good perspective. I think I kind of came into fatherhood going like, well, here's all the things I don't want to be like, and here's the things I'd like to do better. You know?
Wow. So you had a lot of examples, or you have a lot of ways to just like, I guess you can pick which ones you think you wanted to just, you needed to do or have to do.
Yeah, that's in an ideal world, it's that. Depending on the day, you could also look at it as being absolutely assaulted by parents and opinions and criticism. I mean, I'll tell you this, when I was a teenager, there was nothing worse than getting into trouble because I would get 3 or 4 or 5 lectures. Like each parent would call me to give me their own scolding with their own punishment and their own lesson I needed to learn. I just be like, oh my God, not again. Yes, Dad, I understand. Pot is bad. Yes.
So, I mean, you have a lot to pick from, you know, as far as
Too much.
parenting and memories to pick from. And whichever one you want to pick from right now, what are some good memories that you have of either one of your dads that stands out to you?
I mean, I have good memories of all of them. I have a complicated childhood, but by no means am I trying to say that it was like a rough one, meaning everyone loved me and no one, you know, they might have argued and stuff, but like no one was drawing punches. It was just, you know, it's just the way you grow up, and you don't even understand when you're a kid that things are different until you become older and you go, oh wait, people have like one parent, you know? So I have great memories with all of them, but I'd say that when you first ask that question, the very first thing that comes to mind is at one point, my stepdad, Chris, the one who essentially raised me for most of my childhood, he lived in Texas for a while. And this is after he and my mom were divorced. So I was maybe like 10 and he lived right on the river and he had a boat. And it was kind of the only time in my life where like anyone I knew had a boat, and we used to go water skiing and we used to play by that river and go, you know, play with the frogs and get in the mud and all that stuff. And it was, you know, it was the kind of hillbilly, but like, I don't know, I look back on it now and I think like it was such a pure sort of version of my childhood where we were like doing all the typical things you'd see in like a summer movie about kids, you know, riding BMXs and out in the lake and playing with frogs and playing hide and seek and sneaking up to the girls' windows and just all that BS that you do. We kind of crammed it all into one summer in Texas, or a couple summers really. It was also right when I first started listening to music a lot and rock and roll and kind of like listening to the radio. And, you know, I feel like, I don't know if the radio is quite as important to young kids now, but when I was young, like the radio was magical. Like you could hear something on the radio and it could literally change your entire life. And I had a few instances like that. So I look at those times, you know, when you still kind of looked at the world like everything was golden and had potential, before life smacks you around and teaches you that you got to work hard or you will be crushed and die.
That's adulthood. That's adulthood for you. I think about it right now. Look at my son. I'm like, man, you are fearless. You know what I'm saying? When we were kids, that's what we thought. The world was just like a playground. No matter where you went, no matter what you did, it was just a playground. I look at my son now. I'm just looking at him like, yo, you have no fear of anything. Like the only fear you have is if the light turns off, you don't know where to go. Like there's no fear. He can just
or the fear of you not being around, or his mom. Like that's the scariest thing when you're a kid is like coming home and like, where is everybody?
Right, you know? The typical fear. But he's around now. He's just like jumping off couches and doing like all this reckless stuff. Even myself when I was young, and I was thinking, I'm like, man, when I was young, like I can literally go out all day and barely eat anything and be okay. Yeah. Or I can just eat and be okay. But now you can't do any of these things. Everything is minimized. Everything's just like it's portion control. Everything is just, it's different.
I think about it too, in that like back then we like our house, for instance, there was like this sort of ivy in the back of it. Like there was this kind of hill with ivy on it, right? And you know, as an adult, I know that ivy is full of like snakes and rats and broken bottles and all sorts of terrible stuff. And I wouldn't go like crawling, running around. We used to play in that ivy. Like, I mean, we built forts in there. I would hide under the ivy, like embracing the rats and the feces. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think about it now and I go, what? We were crazy. Why did it not occur to any of us how absolutely dangerous, stupid, and like just toxic it was? But you know, you're a kid, you're fearless. Like you said, like when I wanted to be a kid, I wanted to be a stunt man. You know how I practiced? I climbed up in trees and just jumped out of them. I mean, and in my head, I was like, you know what? Do enough for this. I'm going to be ready for the big. Like I thought I was in training.
Yeah, but you could do that when you're a kid. You can do that. You can break your bone and just get back up again and continue playing. That's the kind of stuff you are. That's the power you actually have when you were a kid. All that stuff is at your hands because you are able to do these things.
Well, and some of it too is that you haven't failed yet, you know, so,
Right.
meaning you haven't, until you have your teeth punched out, you don't know that getting your teeth punched out is an option. Until, you know, when we used to ride bikes and big wheels and we would build these jumps and try to get air, that's all a good idea until you get too much air and come crashing down and take a bike in your crotch, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, you know what, let's not do the jumping thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's how you learn, you know. And as we get to be adults, of course, you those same lessons come on bigger levels, because it's not just like knocking a tooth out or, you know, getting an argument with your best friend and now he's your best enemy. It's like you screwed up like a job interview and you didn't get that job because you look back and you go, damn, I was too cocky. Or like, you said something to a girl that you can't take back, and then you wondered later why she broke up with you, and you're like, oh, well, I mean, maybe if I hadn't said those series of terrible, you know, that's the kind of stuff, like, you grow up and you start to look back and you think before you act. And that's, to me, the big difference between being a mature adult and being a kid is thinking before you act, thinking before you talk. I have all sorts of terrible thoughts in my mind and terrible things I want to say. You know, I'm talking to somebody and they mouth off to me and I'm like, well, and, you know, the adult me goes, oh, calm down. You're going to get into a fight with this dude here out in public over some BS. Like, come on, man.
Right. I mean, again, as a child, everything, the world is up to you. And like you said before, I completely agree with you that you haven't had the time to experience failure. You haven't had the time to experience quite certain fears in your life. Like you said, going to a job interview and realizing that you did something wrong, or the girl that you wrote a letter to and she never replied back, and you just feel like you just start reflecting on this stuff. But again, those are the childhood. Those are the things that you think about when as a child. You're like, what was I thinking? Like, how did this go wrong, and why am I? You ever
write that? You ever write that letter to the girl, and you're like, when you're writing it, you're like so heartfelt, and you're like, you know, oh, she's just gonna. And then when she doesn't respond, you're like, wonder why she didn't get that letter. I mean, it was only the one where I told her I've been thinking about her all the time, and I want to die with her, and we should be buried together. Oh, now I see.
Reality check. Yeah.
I think I might be a stalker.
I actually experienced that when I was in grade school. This girl, she was, I believe she was interested in me. She even asked me, she was like, do you like me? She even sent me a letter. That's a good sign. Do you like me, yes or no? But I checked yes. And I've never heard anything from her. Like, she just looked back at me and just like never replied to anything. So I was crushed. Even today, I'm like, what happened? You asked me a question, I answered it. So what happened now?
I'll tell you, you gave the wrong answer. She wanted you to be elusive and be like, nah, man, I like that.
Hard to get, play hard to get.
You were all genuine. You were like, I sure do. And she's like, later, nerd.
Yeah. So you know what? And I was gonna say with this next question, you have abundance of examples to go by. You say you have 3 dads, and with your daughter right now, do you see any characteristics in your birth dad that you see in yourself and maybe see in your daughter?
Yeah, I definitely see some of those traits from my dad to me, to my kid. My dad was a very creative type, so certainly he really the only person in my parents that was super creative was my dad. Ironically, he didn't go down that path as a career in the end, but he was a musician and he had that musical side to him, and certainly that must have rubbed off on me. He's very I think the thing that I share with him is that he's a super fun, likable guy, but he's very intense. And I think I've learned over my time that I have that same thing where, like, people either immediately kind of warm up to me and like me, or I'm way too intense for them and they're like, whoa. And I kind of, over time I've had to just, you get a little more objective about who you are and how people see you. And I kind of have just come to realize, like, I'm not for everybody. Right. And that's okay. Right. So I think that part of my personality comes from my dad. I don't think that she shares that, but I do see a lot of my intensity in my daughter. And while she's not sort of artsy the way that I'm artsy, and that, like, I literally will spend my entire day working on music and writing and art projects, essentially, she's passionate about music the way that I am. She's just not practicing it. She just doesn't go that extra mile picking up a guitar, although she's been playing bass lately, so maybe. But so I think the intensity is something. And then the humor. He's a likable guy. I'm a likable guy. And my kid's very likable. I think we kind of share that. Somehow he's got that that personality trait that people are drawn to him. You know, and I think I've had a bit of that myself.
Right. That's
but
awesome.
I'm the much more annoying version of it.
It seems like for every generation, there's a modified version of it, so to speak.
Exactly.
Yeah, your father was, he's a musician. He's very good at that, but he didn't practice it as much as he needs to. You're fully engaged. But where your daughter, again, she modifies it. She can do it, but it's not something that's just like, it's her number one. It's just,
and thank God, because if there's one career path, I would probably, if you could steer someone away, I'd be like, hey, if you're not 1,000% consumed with being an artist, don't be an artist, because it's the riskiest career path there is. And now, of course, if you are born to paint, then you got to paint.
Right.
If you're like me and you were born to play music and it makes your life is miserable without it, then you got to play music, whether it's your career or your hobby or whatever. Like, you got to do what makes you happy.
Right.
But as far as a career goes, there's no riskier, career path than to become any kind of artist, because you're just gambling everything on, like, I think I'm really good. Well, yeah, but we all know now that being really good don't mean nothing. You know what I mean? You meaning having a good marketing company,
right?
That might break your business. You just being really good at something is a good start, but hell no, that's not enough. Not now, you know what I mean? Because you could be subpar and be really great at social media and beat out those ones who are great at the job and don't know how to grind and hustle and make
their
get their shine on. You know what I mean? So I think, like, these days, like, just being a good craftsman at something is a good starting point. Being the best at it is a great starting point.
Right.
But neither one of them are going to make you $1 million.
Right.
You have to be good at marketing. That's
right. I mean, there's different. I mean, especially with the high social media phase that we're living in right now, you have to know how to maneuver these things.
Yeah.
You have to know how to, like, manipulate these things. And I know for me, the person that I rely on heavily, especially with this podcast and advertising and social media, is my wife, because she's the one that's just literally the backbone of this, like, this drive that I'm doing right now. As far as social media, she's 100% on it. She's like the manager of that, because she knows what to look for, what people are looking for, and she dive in. If it was up to me, I would not be as far as I am right now. I know I'm good at interviewing, and I know I'm good at doing the podcast. But as far as the strength in social media, that's 100% my wife, and I've always given her the credit, because if it wasn't for her, I don't even know how far I would make it right now. But as far as social media, but that's the kind of stuff that you have to, like, start thinking. You can't just say I'm just good at this stuff. I'm good at singing. I'm good at art. But what else that you're good at? And also, if you're not good at it, which is something I've learned, you got to find people that are willing or able to help you out along those stuff. Okay, you're not good at social media like myself, so get someone that's able to do it, either teach you or help you do it for you. Because if it's just you alone, that work in itself is way too heavy, way too much for you to do by yourself.
Yeah, you got to have a team, man.
Right.
And that's with everything. That's, I learned that playing sports as a kid. I learned it as a band member and a band leader over all these years. And I learned it in show business, working at TV networks and websites, and especially in production. Like, if you don't have a good director of photography, if you don't have a good lighting guy, a good camera guy, a good audio guy, like, you're sunk, man. Like,
it's screwed.
It doesn't even matter if you know how to do all that stuff. You can't do it all. So you have to have people that are great, that you can trust implicitly, that you don't have to micromanage.
Right.
And also, you'll learn something from, because like, over the years, I've been lucky enough to hook up with, like, in my production career, a couple editors and a couple camera people and a couple cinematographers who are so good at what they do and so much better at it than I am. But then I have this other thing that they maybe lack, or, we complement each other. So instead of me kind of going like, oh, well, I don't know if I need this or I can do all this myself, I'm like, well, I want the A team, man. I want, like, the 4 best, craziest MFers in a black and red van. And, we're going to be a team, and the A team, like, you had to have Face, and you had to have Murdoch, and you had to have BA, you had to have Hannibal. It's 4 people. It's not one person. You know what I mean?
It's a good team. I read somewhere where it says that if you don't have people that's around you to uplift you and push you towards the dream that you have, then you can't go as far as you need to go. Because if you're not surrounding yourself with people that's pushing you forward, it's gonna be a problem, because there's a lot of people that's around. They want to make it. They want to be around you when you make it. But when in the process of you making it, working it, they don't want to have anything to do with it. So you want to have a group, a team that believe in the dream that you have. So they when you moving forward, they're moving forward. And if you stay stagnant and you feel like you're not moving, they're the one that's gonna say, "Look, let's go today. I know you're tired. I know you've been up all night, but we got to do this. You got to do this." The long run is that we have a goal to achieve. If we don't, this is the consequences. But keep pushing. And if you have people that's around you that's doing those things, you're most likely you're not gonna be tired, because it's always somebody always giving you that positive reinforcement energy.
And I think that sort of circling back to your first question about, fatherhood and stuff, I feel like that is part of the role of being a father is to some extent, you are your kid's biggest supporter and biggest coach. And of course you have to criticize them and you have to push them. And sometimes you have to yell at them and punish them. And because that's part of motivating too, like any good coach. But one thing I really learned, like when my kid was in sports, and I was in sports as a little kid because, when you're a boy in America, you are pointed towards sports until there's a reason not to be. That is just how we were raised. So I did sports like everyone else until I found the guitar, and then I had no interest in sports. And I just wanted to play music. My kid, when she was in soccer, the thing that I got the most out of that was seeing the way that she responded to her coach and being on a team. And I really felt like it was important, that coach role, because not only is it similar to what we do as fathers, we're coaching our kids and we're filling them with inspiration and we're pushing them harder, but we're also there when they fall. But also I like that, because kids sometimes they also start to grind with their parents, and all of a sudden they're like, "Man, Dad, you just tell me to." So I really liked having a coach in the mix too, besides that, because it was almost like on other father, meaning if she ain't going to listen to me, I know when she gets to soccer practice, she's going to listen to the coach. Absolutely. And so I found in her younger days that and I always tell this, and it's funny because, like I said, I'm not really a big sports guy, but I'm really big for kids being in sports in their youth, in their early days. I think it's super important. I think having that second sort of father figure coming from a coach, having nothing to do with whether they have a good father in their life or not. If they have one, great. Now they have a second father figure. If they don't have one, then even better. In that now they might have that role in their life. And so I was a big fan as far as I felt the sports actually helped me as a parent. Like it helped me kind of tune my kid up a little.
Okay, cool. So just to wrap up your journey with your dad, if you had the chance to tell any one of your dads, right? Any one of your dads, anything that maybe you haven't said or you wanted to say, and they're in front of you right now. And I don't know if all of them are still alive. If you had the chance to just talking to them and you wanted to tell them anything that you wanted to tell them, what would it be?
Well, I mean, I hate to say this, but I would probably tell my dad now, with all the love and due respect, you got to stop all this Trump supporting, man. But but I don't want to get all political. I know that's not this kind of show. But I mean, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I mean, one of the weird, terrible things about social media and stuff is you get all this insight into people's political beliefs and that you wouldn't necessarily even bother talking to them. I mean, I have friends I've known for years. I've never even once asked them whether they're Republican or Democrat, and I kind of could care less. And I'm not going to go there. We don't have to get this. But I will say that, I see my dad posting all this Trump stuff, and I would love to just without fearing any dissolving of our entire relationship, because that is what would happen if I had this conversation. I was candid. I would love to just say, man, you got to wake up. But short of that, I kind of alluded to this earlier. My stepdad, he married my mom, and this is my second stepdad, the one who came in later in my life. He married my mom, and I don't think he particularly necessarily wanted kids, but we kind of came with the package, and we were nice enough kids. We weren't terrible, so he took us on, and he did his best. He and I had a lot of trouble growing up, or when I was growing up, but we sort of smoothed it out later. But he did a few things that were humongously influential, and I don't think he realized that they were influential, but he was in show business, and we didn't know people in show business when we were little kids. I mean, maybe we knew some people whose kids were, but we didn't know. And he worked for Universal at the time, and he was able to get on the sets of like TV shows and movies and stuff. So he took my brother and I to the sets of a few TV shows. There was a show called The White Shadow. I don't know if you remember that. It was in the 70s, like a high school basketball drama. And there was a couple other like sitcoms and stuff where he like took us on the set, and my brother and I got to see like behind the scenes of how TV shows were made, and that there was a director, and that the cast, who seemed like these superstars, were just people that would come up and talk to us. And then they took us to some concerts. And dude, the second concert I ever saw in my life, and the first comedy concert I ever saw in my life, is Eddie Murphy on the Delirious tour.
Wow.
The second comedy concert I ever saw, because my parents took me to see Jimmy Buffett, right? Whatever. Then I saw Eddie Murphy on the Delirious tour. Then I saw Eddie Murphy on the Raw tour.
Wow.
So both outfits, the red leather and the purple or the blue leather.
Classic.
And then they also, around that same time, took me to see the Blues Brothers with Booker T and the MGs were the backing band.
Yes.
Paul Schaefer from the Letterman band was the keyboard player, and John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd and, Mike McIntyre Murphy, the whole thing. So not only did we get to go to these incredible concerts when we were young, and concerts that as little kids we should have had no business being at, because curse laden, forget about it. But they took us backstage, and my dad was unaware that I think Brecken and I, my brother's an actor, Brecken Meyer, and I'm a musician, Frank Meyer. And when we went to these shows and we got to see behind the scenes, and there were celebrities hanging around, and we got to see like the directors and stuff, I think that had a humongous impact on both of us. And so if I had one thing I would tell my dad, I think he beats himself up for maybe not being such a great dad. And I would be like, no, actually you were pretty good. You tried your best, but you did, by doing those couple things, you actually completely sent my brother and I down these career paths that have changed the course of our entire lives. Right. So actually, I mean, what more could you ask for from a parent figure than to accidentally change the entire course of your life? You know what I mean?
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's really amazing to have that experience, to experience these things, not only with your dad, but your brother too.
And think about how many times I experienced the F word at those concerts. Endless. I mean, that's the thing. When we grew up too, like music, like going to concerts and stuff when we were a kid was, those were big for us. Like, I think it really had a huge impact. I don't think that even we realized it at the time. But, seeing edgy comedians at a young age was really kind of opened up our minds. Seeing sophisticated music and hearing comedy that made your brain kind of have to work a little bit.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, that stuff was big for me. And people, I don't know, I'm older than you, but people don't realize Eddie Murphy in that time, he was like Elvis. You know what I mean? And but I didn't have any, I didn't care about Elvis because he was my parents' generation. It seemed kind of like hillbilly to me or something. But Saturday Night Live, that was big for me. And so to see a guy like Eddie, who was kind of a rock star and on the biggest TV show and had music videos and wore leather outfits like Prince, and then we saw him in person, that blew my mind as a kid. It blew my mind, and I feel like that was the beginning of me going, I want to be in show business.
Nice. Wow. Yeah. I mean, especially exposure to those kind of things that allow your mind to work better. It opens your mind up to see the possibilities that you have. Because sometimes if you're not exposed to it, you don't know how much you can do. You don't know that the range you can reach. And especially, I'm very thankful for your stepdad for allowing you to explore those things. I mean, granted, I don't even think that was the reason why he was doing it. But the fact that he did it was, I think helped propel you on the goal that on the journey that you are in right now. I think if it wasn't, I think you would have probably had a different direction, which is fine. But I think that helped a lot, and I appreciate that. For that, you are able to have that kind of experience and make that decision at an early age as well. So let's end with this. Let's end with that, and let's move on to dadhood, the fun part, right? So tell me about dadhood for you.
Some kids when they're little, they just know that they're going to be a dad. And I don't know why I thought this, but for some reason, I just always knew I was going to be a dad. I didn't have this vision of who I was going to marry or like what my ideal wife would be or whether I have a boy or a girl. I didn't have any of those details, but I think I just always knew that I was going to be a dad or that I always wanted to be. I always liked kids and I always get along great with kids. I always did when I was younger and even, now and stuff. So I was excited about being a dad at that time. Of course, I was married. I was younger. I was much greener. I probably still had stars in my eyes and thought that the whole world owed me something and I was going to be, top of the heap or whatever. But I was very excited to be a father. And then fatherhood comes fast and furious, as you know. I don't care how prepared. I don't care how much you thought as a kid like I did that you were going to be this great dad. And I'm a pretty good dad. But the whole thing is mind-boggling when it hits you because first off, as you know, you don't sleep at all for the first several months. And if you're lucky, you can trade off shifts with your wife. If you're really lucky, maybe your wife doesn't sleep and she goes, I got this. But generally it becomes like tag team and, you're not sleeping, she's not sleeping, you're not sleeping, she's not sleeping. And it's, it's rough. And if you have a job or if you both have jobs and you're dealing with that and having to get up and go to work, it runs you ragged at first. And the thing that I remember being the most stressful in those early days was any moment I wasn't with my kid, in that I became so consumed with being there all the time and, running in the room if she cried and, getting up if she stirred in her sleep, that when, my job gave me like a couple weeks at the time for like, the leave. And then when I had to go back, I was just racked with guilt and nerves and angst because I felt like I was abandoning my wife and that I was leaving her with just, gigantic task. And I also felt like if it went down, like, I don't know how soon could I get home if I needed to be. Right. So I remember when I had like separation anxiety, I feel like, when I first started leaving the house. And then just one story I'll tell you, which was the first time that I ever went out at night after my kid had been born. So like for the first 3 months, I probably just didn't do anything social that wasn't involving like food and groceries. And a friend of mine, guy who played drums in my band back when we were like a touring band, he's like, hey, I'm coming through LA with this band and, I'm going to be playing at this club. You should come down. I was like, you know what? I would like to come down to that. That sounds fun. I go to my wife and I go, honey, would you mind? And our kid was sick at the time, just had a little head cold, but, no big deal. And she's like, yeah, I got this. Kid's just a little sick. You go have your fun. Go see your boys. You go have a couple beers. Go have a good time. It's going to be great. So I go and I'm having my guys' night out. Blah, blah. I come back and I open the door and my wife is standing there holding our screaming, shrieking child whose eye is the size of a swollen red pussy baseball. Ooh. And I'm just like, what happened? I've only been gone for like 2 hours. Apparently, and my daughter's going to love me for telling the story, she fell asleep on her tummy with her butt up and had diarrhea, and the diarrhea leaked down with gravity to her body, got in her hand, she wiped her eye, and boom, it blew up like a ball. And then I walked in after like a couple beers. Hey, that was what? And she's sitting there and the baby's face is swollen and she's shrieking and she's like, you got to take the baby to the hospital. And I did, but I never went out again for like a year. So that was my lesson. I was like, don't ever leave the baby. Literally, after that, I was like, if you leave the baby's head will explode.
Wow. I'm glad you mentioned that during or after the birth of your child that you experienced some kind of, stress. A lot of time it get passed over for the dad that, the stress and the anxiety only goes to the mom, right? But I've also been reading a lot where there is a lot of men that go through this, where a lot of dad that go through this when after the baby's born, they mentally change. The way they think, the way they go about things change. Like I said before, going back to work was stressful for you because now all you were thinking about is your child. A lot of us go through this. A lot of men go through this, and we don't talk about that. And I'm happy that you were able to mention that because it is true. It does happen. It does occur as sometimes frequently. We don't even realize it, but because it's so it's a norm, so to speak, quote unquote, for a woman to go through this, that we literally, society bypass men and just go straight to the mom, and we don't even know how to deal with that stuff. There's not even much research on it, but it does happen.
There's also, a lot of women get postpartum depression,
right?
Which is and it can be to different degrees, but essentially they even though everything is telling them that, hey, you just had a baby and you should be the happiest you've ever been in your whole life, something inside them is not allowing them to be happy, and in fact they're racked with guilt, and they're racked with fear, and there's the whole sort of, it's like, it's a legit thing. It's not just like, oh, I get depressed. But men, I feel like, and again, I don't know how researched it is, but there's like a man version of that.
Yeah.
And it manifests itself different because I feel like men are wired different.
Right.
And
okay, let's take a brief commercial break.
What I found is that I also had a lot of stress, but it wasn't like the kind of like crippling depression where you don't leave the room. It's more like I just carried on with my life, but I just had this sort of pit of fear in my stomach that I just never had before. Like I'm not in general someone who's very scared of things,
right? But
I found that I had this deep hole that I couldn't quite fill, and as time went on, I realized it was fear. And it was just that everything was scary to me now, and I always felt so confident about everything, even if I had no right to be, by the way. Because part of being a teenager is you're confident about everything, and like you're just wrong half the time. I know everything. But I was so used to feeling confident about things, especially being a musician, singer, like I'm out there, I'm always sort of like the front guy. And now I'm a father and I don't know anything. And every single thing I do could result in the death of my child and the end of my relationship with my wife, if I made some horrible decision. So I was really freaked out for a long time, and it took me a while to kind of just relax with the whole thing. And then the other thing that I noticed, and tell me if you've had friends like this, I've had a lot of friends who, when they have their kid, they kind of freak out and they go the opposite way, which is like all of a sudden they start really drinking and partying or hitting the clubs and having this like weird reverse adolescence thing of like, I know that I am now officially tied down an adult and I got these responsibilities, and they go the complete opposite way. And instead of freaking out about sticking to them, they go F the responsibilities and they just blow everything off. Right. And it's almost like, shooting yourself in the foot. Like you do this incredible thing and then you get crushed under the weight of its importance, and you just crumble and do stupid stuff.
I can say, I've said this a few times, and I'm going to repeat it here. There is a mental growth that you have to have in every stage of your life. One is when you have a girlfriend. You and your girlfriend, there's a different stage for that, right? It's kind of like everything is nice, is beautiful, is butterflies in your stomach. You can't get enough. There's another stage when you get married, right? It's just you and your wife. Now you have a ring in the finger. She's your wife, your husband. It's a different stage. Then there's another stage when you are a dad and you guys have a child. That's a whole different stage. And then you're talking about adding another child to that. It's a different stage. So all those stages matter. Now, if you are not mentally ready for those stages in your life, you digress. You move backwards. Instead of moving forward, you move backwards. And that's why a lot of people tend to go to. If you're not ready to become a dad, if you're not ready to take on that challenge, that journey of dadhood, it's going to become scary. And now instead of you taking it head on, you say, I'm going to continue doing me. That's another thing. You think about a lot of selfish. I'm going to continue doing me. I'm going to continue hitting the club. I'm going to continue doing drinking. I'm going to continue going out with the boys. And you forget about the growth. And when you don't grow, you can't move up, Yeah. So you start thinking about yourself and only about yourself. But when you take that journey of dadhood, of your parenthood, and you take it and you fully embrace it and see how much of an impact you're having on your child, on the kid that can't do anything by themselves, then you start understanding the value of dadhood, this journey that you're taking. So a lot of people don't know it, and they can't experience it because they're scared of it. So I've always encouraged, I'll say, if you are if you are to have a child, make sure you mentally are prepared to be a dad, because that itself, and I talked about it in the last podcast, you have to be intentional. You have to be intentional about being a dad, and you got to want to be a dad. If you're not, it's going to impact you in a negative way. You really have to jump at this with everything, should I say.
Yeah.
If not, it's going to backfire, and you're going to feel like, I'm going to continue doing whatever I'm going to do. It's all about me.
Right. And like you said, then some people end up actually kind of going in reverse. And instead of having this opportunity to mature and grow as you're now kind of going on this new journey, some people kind of run backwards and get even regress to even being more irresponsible or immature or kind of shirking this responsibility. There's Jerry Seinfeld put out a new comedy special a few months ago on Netflix, and he did a bunch of great jokes in there about dads. But one of them was, he said, you dress, if you're a father, you dress the way you dress now, the exact way you did when your kid was born. Basically meaning like when your kid's born, you stop. And you basically you spend the rest of your life trapped in that moment, essentially, which I thought about it because I would, when my kid was born, it was like the early 2000s. I was playing in a punk rock band. I had Converse sneakers and torn jeans and probably a cowboy shirt and this, that, and this. And as I'm watching Jerry Seinfeld say that you're frozen in time after you have your kid, I look down, I'm like, I'm wearing ripped jeans and a cowboy shirt. Right.
Absolutely. You have to grow, not only physically, you have to mentally grow. There's different stages in every aspect of your life. If you're not ready to take that on head on, it's gonna hit you hard, and you're gonna move backwards instead of moving forward. Yep. You're gonna move backwards. So with I know you mentioned before that you always wanted to be a dad, which is interesting that you said. Is you always wanted to be a dad. You didn't know who you were gonna marry. You don't know, how many kids you're gonna have, but you always wanted to be a dad, which is I find it interesting because I always wanted to be a dad because the experience that I had with my dad wasn't the best, right? So I wanted to be able to. I wanted to be a dad so I can show my son, my child, what it means to be a dad. Like everything that he didn't do for me, I wanted to do for my son.
And maybe you wanted to show yourself that too.
Right. I think that's what it is. I wanted to show myself that I can be a good dad. And that's why it needs to be. So before you became a dad, became a father, did you know what kind of dad you wanted to be? And do you think you were that person now?
I think that I always knew that I don't know if I had an idea of what kind of dad I wanted to be. I kind of knew what kind of dad I didn't want to be.
Okay.
I think that was the thing, is that I had seen a lot of crappy dads over the years from my friends. Like I said, my dads all did their best, and I had different relationships with them, but none of them were like bad dads or anything like that. But I had these different degrees and these different personalities. But I had friends who had really terrible fathers. Right. And I had my three dads with their unique approaches. So I had a lot of examples of good dads and bad dads, or good dads that did bad things, or bad dads that did good things. And so I've kind of had this idea of the type of person that I wanted to be. I think is really what it more was like, I just know the way I react, or that I deal with other people, and I know how I deal with kids. And I just knew that my instinct with my own kid, because of course, your instinct is to love and support your kid, would kick in, that I'd probably be all right. So I didn't necessarily know what kind of dad, but just more like what I didn't want to be. But I'll tell you this, I had a bunch of friends growing up whose parents, when they were teenagers, were what we would call like the really cool parents, meaning like they'd let you go over to their house and drink the beer, or you could smoke, and if they walked in and caught you smoking cigarettes, they didn't throw your ass out of the house, or like they would, smoke weed with you, or let the kids smoke weed and stuff. And when I was young, and all of a sudden you'd go into someone's house and you could just openly do whatever you wanted, I thought that was so cool. And I remember thinking like, wow, those parents are so cool. as I got older, I remember going, I don't want to be that guy. I'm not going to be that kind of parent. Like, forget about what I do. I'm an adult. I can do these things if I choose to, but I would not do them in front of my kid. I certainly wouldn't have my kid come over and have this conversation. Yeah, partake or have a household where my kid can tell other people, like, hey, you guys want to go drink? Come to my place. Or maybe my dad will give us some of his weed or buy us some alcohol. Like, all that to me is insane. It's insane. Until they're 18, like, I think all that stuff, again, you can be honest with your kid. As your kid gets older, maybe, I'm not ever, to each their own. I'm not making any judgments. I'm just saying the idea that when kids are young and in the early teenage days, or even in the later teenage days, this idea that you would like smoke and drink with your kid or even look the other way is completely insane to me. And that to me is like the definition of irresponsible parenting. And so that's one of those things that just I've always in my head kind of gone, it's just never going to happen. Like, I don't care how cool I think I am. Like, I don't, and that's the thing that, not to interrupt you, but a lot of parents want to be friends with their kids. And like, you can be friends with your kids, but don't be friends with your kid. You know what I mean? Like, meaning you can be friendly with you want to have an open and honest relationship with your kid. You want them to come with you with their problems and stuff, but you can't really be their friend because you're their parent and you have to discipline them and you have to tell them things not to do and they have to respect you. And if you're trying to do a whole dance to make your friend and their dopey teenage friends think you're cool, that's the dumbest thing you could ever do. You know what I mean? Yeah,
that's why I said progress. You have to grow. Somebody like that, a parent like that sounds like someone that has given up as being a parent.
Or they're not, or they've just never taken it seriously in the first place. And they're like, it goes back to what we said, they're stunted in this denial and adolescence. So they're not allowing themselves to grow up. And they're really even in denial that they're even parents. Because if they were, they wouldn't be doing that stuff with their kid. Or looking the other way. You can never look the other way with your kid. I mean, you can't. Looking the other way, they fall and hit their head, or they do worse things when they're teenagers, get pregnant. But you know what I mean? Like, this idea that like, oh, I'm gonna be a cool parent. Hey man, whatever. I want my kid to think I'm cool. Like, no, you don't. You want them to think of your dad. Not cool.
Yeah, because you
might be cool, but
you need that discipline in your life as a child or as an adolescent. You need that discipline because now it's a structure. If that balance is not there, you can see that where you're waving towards. If you're around your friends and you're that kind of parent that just let anything go, I'm telling you right now, the kid that's gonna grow up, unless that kid has a strong mind frame, is going to grow up to be a very loose person and not have a structure in their life, which is something that you don't want to have to do.
You nailed it right there. Structure to me is everything with kids. And, in both, I've written 2 books about raising kids, and both of them, but especially the second one, because it's really more about raising kids. The first one is about what you need to know when women are pregnant as a father. But in the second one, we really talk all about structure. In that, like, kids need to be on a set schedule. They need to know who they answer to in their lives. They need to know that there's rules, and they need to know if they break those rules, that there are consequences. And you have to stick to that stuff. And that's when you can't be like Mr. Cool Dad and be like, well, she gave me that look. And whenever she gives me that look, I, got her wrapped around her finger so I didn't punish her. Like, no, that's not how you do it, man. You have to stick to this stuff. They have to know there's consequences. You have to be consistent with kids, and you have to provide them with structure.
Cool. Yes. As a dad, was there anything in particular that you feel like you wanted to do different or could have done different?
Good question. I would say, it's a strange thing. My kid was one of those kids when she was little that just never did anything wrong. And that's so, like, people say that and they go, yeah, right, sure, man. But like, I'm telling you, she just was one of those kids where like, I really didn't have to punish her very much because she just kind of wasn't rebellious. They talk about the terrible twos. Her twos were not terrible. But as a teenager, she's had more trouble. And I don't mean trouble like in any bad way. I'm just saying, like, now, as of course, she's also a teenager in COVID, which is a different story. Going to high school now is a different story because there's no school, it's online. So this last 6 months with all this stuff's been stressful. But I guess that I've noticed that because maybe things were so stress-free and so easy in some ways for her as a child, there wasn't a lot of opportunity for me to discipline her. And, you know, it's not like I'm going out of my way to discipline my kid. If they don't do something to warrant it, I'm not just gonna be like, you're punished. You know what I mean? I just felt like I want to get one out of my system. Now I've found as she's older and she's dealing with teenage drama and teenage crises and boyfriends and girlfriends and stressful peer pressure stuff, I almost, you know, sometimes I almost wonder, or I go, geez, I wonder if she had been a little bit more rebellious as a kid, it would have given me the opportunity to discipline her, and those things might have had some sort of different impact. Not a bad one, not a good one. It's just like literally like her whole life, I never had to yell at her because she just never did anything wrong. But now at 16, it's just drama, 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 drama. And of course I know, like, she's 16, of course it's going to be drama, drama. That's what being a 16-year-old is, especially in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. But I have to say, sometimes I look back and I kind of go, I don't know, was I too easy on her? Like, I can't think of times when she did something and I didn't react. It's more like she just never did a lot of things that I had to like react negatively towards. Right. But I somehow in the back of my head, I go, I don't know, maybe I should have just made some stuff up. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? You didn't clean your room, but it's spotless. Oh yeah? No, it's not. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So that's the only thing I wonder is just like, sometimes I wonder, I mean, I can't think of opportunities where I should have or could have done something differently. But I also know when I think back on it, she had a very carefree childhood with not a lot of stress or discipline. And I don't know, maybe some more would have been a good thing. Maybe not. I don't know. You asked, so that's my answer.
All right. So let me hit a little softer side of you then. Describe to me the moment you met your daughter.
The moment I met her was when she was born in the hospital. I was right there in the room, and I even kept the t-shirt that I wore. I had a Ramones t-shirt on, and at the time I had just written my first book, and it was about the Ramones, and so I had my Ramones t-shirt on. And it's funny because you look at the pictures of me holding her now, and I literally look like a little kid, and I've got like a Ramones t-shirt on, you know, just this like little youth. But yeah, I was in the hospital room, and I remember the sound and sights of her coming out and breathing her first breath of air, and it was completely exhilarating. Our whole family was in the other room, and if there's one regret, I probably invited them into the room too quickly, in that like moments after, I mean not moments, but minutes after we'd had this moment, and you know, she'd just given birth, so she was pretty exhausted. I like opened the door, and you know, the room was flooded with parents. I remember my wife at the time giving me this look like, really, you could have waited a few more minutes? I just gave birth. But so yeah, it was exhilarating and it was happy. And I'll tell you a funny story, which was, maybe you guys have some version of this out there, but out here there was this rumor of this restaurant that had a pregnant salad. And in that it was a salad that apparently, because of the right spices in the dressing and olive oil or whatever, that if a woman who was extremely pregnant, like late, you know, wanted to get that baby out, you went and you ate this salad and boom, the baby would come out. And we had heard this and we thought, of course, it was just BS, you know, but my wife was 2 weeks late. And so she calls me at work one day and she goes, hey, I'm going into the valley and I'm going to get the pregnant salad. I was like, good luck. You know, I'm sure it's all BS. And I get a call 3 hours later saying, I'm on my way to the hospital. You got to come meet me. I just broke my water. And I was like, what? The pregnant salad worked. It really did work. And what's crazy is that when she was home, she went home after getting the salad and she was making chili. And back then we would like make a big thing of chili and we'd like freeze half of it, you know, for later. And then, so she was making the chili and she called me and she's like, I'm making chili and I just broke my water and I'm going to go run to the hospital. You got to come meet me. The pregnant salad worked. And she runs off and I was just like, oh my God. So I run to the hospital and it was like 24 hours of her giving birth. It was long. And about halfway through that, she goes, look, why don't you go home, get me up, go get me a heating pad, go change and shower, pick this up, pick that up, and just come right back here. It's not going to happen in the next few minutes. You're fine. There's still some chili in the fridge. And I go, wait a second, what? Weren't you in the middle of making the chili when your water broke? And she's like, yeah, but I finished making the chili. I was like, whoa! I was like, that is so gangster. You finished making the chili?
That's
What?
a keeper. That's a keeper.
I was like, that is tough. You are a tough broad.
Wow. And I was going to ask about, some favorite memories that you have, but that's definitely a good one. That's definitely a good one. So, I'm not going to hold you long. I'm not going to hold you too long. So, but I'm enjoying the conversation. I'm going to say that. So if you could describe three great moments as a dad, you can say three good moments besides, I guess, the birth of your daughter, so to speak, but three great moments that you can actually say, these are like pinned in my head to remember by.
The first moment with my child that really stands out is the day that we brought her home. And we had, you spend months prepping your kid's room. And so we brought the baby home and now brought the baby into this room that we had been, making for so long. And I remember I basically was going to rock the baby to sleep. And I put on Rainbow Connection, from the Muppet movie soundtrack. And that moment, it's just burned into my brain of just like being in my baby's room, holding the baby, my wife by my side, Rainbow Connection by the Muppets playing. It just, rocking my child to sleep for the first time. It was just one of those kind of everything changed. And maybe it was the first time that I really felt like a man, you know what I mean? Like, I think I was like, I grew up at that moment to some extent. So that was the first one. Second one, when my kid was playing soccer, she was a goalie and they were in this heated game and she jumped down to block a goal from an oncoming kicker. And the girl took her foot back with the cleat and missed the ball and kicked my kid with full power from like 2 feet away with a cleat right in the cheek and broke her whole cheekbone, like shattered her face. You wouldn't know it now. She's a beautiful girl. But we were halfway across the soccer field, my ex-wife and I. And so we saw her take the hit and we saw her go down, but then we saw her get right back up. And for some reason, which to this day, I still can't figure out, they just blew the whistle and kept going with the game, which was another, it was like towards the end anyway, maybe another minute or two. But I saw that kick and I was like, oh, that can't be good. So then a few seconds later but the coach had run up to her. So I was like, well, if there was something serious, they would have called the game. Then when we go up, I see my entire kid's face is just dented and black and blue and bleeding. And I'm just like, who looked at this and made the call to keep going? And we rushed her to the hospital and they're like, yeah, her entire cheekbone is broken. Wow. And that moment was the scariest moment as having a kid, which I guess would qualify as one of the top 3 moments because scary counts. But also I got to say, like, when the fear of her life subsided, I was like, damn, my kid took a cleat to the face, broke her whole face, and kept playing. Yeah. That was the part that I was like, all right, I went from terrified to proud because I was like, she didn't raise her hand and say, take me out. She just got up and kept playing. That's balls right there. I thought that was cool. The other thing, the most recent, the last one would be the most recent thing, which was my daughter got herself a job and saved up and bought herself a car. Yeah. And even crazier, she went into the used car lot. She had us drive an hour away to BFE to this janky ass car lot to go get this car she had her eye on, and I'm driving her there going like, what? There's car lots in Long Beach where we live. Why we got to go out here? She's like, no, this is a good deal. This is a good deal. She gets there and she has my dad, my stepdad, the one who raised me, Chris, on the phone. And she basically had it to where she's the teenager, I'm the good cop, and my dad on the phone is the bad cop. So she's just playing innocent the whole time, like, well, this is the car I want, and this is the numbers, and this is the money that I saved up for that I can afford. And so the guys, of course, kind of going, oh, it's a teenager, I'm not going to jerk around too hard. But then every single time he'd try to, pull like, well, do you want to pay for the blah, blah, blah insurance? She'd go, hold on. She'd get on the phone with my dad and she'd be like, yeah, he's trying that. Okay, I'll tell him. Yeah, my dad says absolutely no way. And then he'd look over at me kind of like help, and I'd be like, hey man, this is my dad too. And he knows cars, and he is not a good dude. Like, you don't want, it's going to get ugly if you go to. So she talked him down like $2,000 off the price. Wow. That was already a good price. So she just gangstered the whole thing. Like, she had it all worked out that like my dad, she had him on the line waiting, like, you know what I mean? Like on some like, let me check in with my consigliere here. Yeah, that's unacceptable. And I was just like, what?
Proud moment.
I thought it was incredible. So I was like, and one of the reasons I think I was so proud is I hate used car salesmen, and I'm terrible at that stuff. And I'm the guy who immediately goes, yeah, I guess that does sound like a pretty good, that sounds like a square deal, sir. You know what I mean? Like, I have none of those powers of seeing through. Like, when I go into a used car lot, it's like for me going into a dentist or a doctor. But somehow she just saw through the whole thing and went in all tough, and I was so happy.
Wow, that's a proud moment. That is a proud moment.
I thought it was really cool, man. And also, she didn't need me to, she didn't even once, probably because she knew I'm not good at this, but she did not ask for my help beyond, will you drive me there and will you stand there and just don't say anything, basically.
Right.
I was like, yeah, I can do that.
But she played her card right. You being
did.
there, and then she have your stepdad on the phone, so she had like full support.
That was the move. Just having him, I swear to God, it was like, I was like, that's a genius move. Like, because then you don't even know, dude, there could have been no one on the phone for all he knew. You know what I mean? Like think about what a genius move that is. Any situation you say, I'm just going to have them on the line. Yeah.
Especially because, when you're talking about car salesmen, you're talking about and dealing with one woman to a young age, they're just gonna take advantage of you. But
I'm sure when she walked in there, especially with my unassuming ass, she was just like, the guy was just like, I am going to rob these people for his, you know what I mean? Like, right. I'm sure we looked like pigeons, but she knew what she wanted, and I knew just to keep my mouth shut.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. All right, I have two more questions. I'm gonna let you go.
Sure, man.
So just to wrap up with your journey as a dad, how do you want your daughter to remember you by?
I think that my daughter is going to remember that I was always in her corner, that I always had her back, and that we had a really good time together. We get along really well. One of the most special things for me is the bond that I have with my daughter. Like, we can finish each other's sentences, and I kind of can't BS her. She just sees right through me. And I'm good at BSing. Like, I can BS the best of the BSers, but there's none of that with her. She sees right through it. So I love the honesty we have. I love the rapport we have. And I hope, and I think that she'll always sort of cherish that. But if there was something I wanted her to learn from me beyond just looking at our relationship in a positive light and looking at me as a good, father figure and a loving parent, I think that I'm a really hardworking person. And I think that she has picked that up from me. She's a very hardworking person. I've always had sort of I'm not sure where I got it from, but I've always had sort of a leader type quality. I tend to be, in the band, I tend to be the front guy. If we're a football team, I tend to be the quarterback, though I'm not built to be a quarterback. But you know what I'm saying? I tend to be right. The guy who goes, hey, here's the idea. Let's all go do this thing. Rah, rah, rah. And then I tend to work harder than everyone else and have more ideas and more willing to sort of see them through and kind of just keep pushing things forward. I tend to not leave things unfinished. I tend to do a lot, and I complete everything. And so I think that she has already picked up on that work ethic that I have. My guess is she's already annoyed by it too, like most of the women in my life. they realize that it's not other women they should be threatened by. It's work. It's my brain. And that's not to say that I'm super smart. It's that I'm a workaholic and I'm a super creative guy. So I've always got ideas and I'm always doing them. When we get off the phone, I'm going to jump right back into, doing more stuff. Like, I'm always doing stuff. So it's probably annoying if you have to live with me, but I think it's something that my daughter will find is going to be a great tool in her tool belt, or a great weapon as she battles in the future, which is knowing what hard work is, knowing that there's no way around it, and knowing that if no one else steps up to the plate, then you better damn well step up to the plate.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right, so to wrap it up and close off, for all the dads out there, the father figures, and those that are to be, and those that are in the game already, what kind of message do you want to leave with the dads out there?
If there's one message I'd like to tell other parents, it's take a deep breath. So much of parenting feels so urgent. You know, everything, when you're making a decision, when your kid falls down or does something you don't like, or suddenly you feel the need to, like, oh, it's lesson time, I'm going to use this opportunity to teach my kid a lesson. These things come fast and furious, and sometimes we act quickly and maybe sometimes too quickly. There's times when I've said things to my daughter, nothing that I like, nothing terrible that I regret, but stuff where I go, geez, you know, if I wasn't in the moment when I said it and I thought a little bit more, I took a deep breath, I might have approached that differently. And that's not that, I would say that is beyond parenting. I think that's a good life lesson. Is just like, take a deep breath before you talk. Take a deep breath and think about what you want to say before you talk, and what exactly are your actions, and what do you want the results of those actions to be? Because too often we just act and do something and then have to deal with it and pick up the pieces or damage repair, you know, like, oh man, I know that I felt this way and it felt like the right thing to do, but I sure didn't mean to say that thing or do that thing or set these things into motion, that now I got to clean up my own, you know, trail of destruction.
Right.
And I think so much of that in life is just like, take a deep breath, don't act out of emotion, act out of logic, act out of love, not fear. So if, you know, I would just tell parents that I know everything seems hugely important and that everything has to be done right this second and everything is an emergency, and sometimes they are, but more often than not, you could take a moment and think about what you really want to accomplish from this and what the best way to approach it is, and you'll probably come at it with a more measured, thought out point of view or course of action.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. I love that. Frank, I want to thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
Thank you so much for this time, for this moment. I enjoyed this conversation so much. There's so many pointers in there that I really, I can take from it. And a lot of people can take from it. And I'm again, first and foremost, before I wrap up, I just want to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your words. Thank you for your journey. Thank you for your experience as a dad and for sharing it. I honestly, I'm so glad that I reached out to you and you were able to share this journey. It's beautiful. I love it.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. It's nice to talk about this stuff, and it's nice to talk with other dads about this stuff. Like you said, you know, it's only been kind of recently that this space has started to open up where men can talk freely about stuff that's not so manly. Because a lot of being a father is like learning and eating crow and having to, you know, do something that you're using all the restraint you have at this moment. And, you know, sometimes it goes against everything that we learn as men up until we're fathers. And then you have to do a little reprogramming. And I feel like a lot of times men are not willing to open up about stuff that makes them seem vulnerable or make them seem weak. But part of being a mature man and part of being a good father is admitting that, like, you don't know all the answers. Sometimes you're going to do your best, and it's okay to be vulnerable and it's okay to be weak. We all are. Next, you know, it's not, you don't need to get hang up on all that stuff. Yeah, we get it, you know, but like, it's okay to be a complex person, and it's okay to talk to men about the stuff we're going through. And it doesn't mean you're like any less of a man because you had a problem with something or didn't know the answer or screwed up and failed. Like, you got to do that. That's how you win.
Man, this was refreshing, and I enjoy this conversation. It's much needed. And I'm hearing that a lot whenever I have these interviews. A lot of guys, I was like, this is much needed. We need a platform, and definitely there's a lot of podcasts and Instagram stuff that's catering to dad and dadhood and the stuff and that journey. And it's more of it's a movement right now that's being done. A lot of men right now, like myself, is a stay-at-home dad, and I'm also working. So there's a lot of this that is going on a lot, and it's being featured and it's being advertised a lot more. And I applaud that. I really applaud that. Conversation that we're having is very refreshing. I think it's needed, is necessary, and it's great to just talk. to just freely talk. It's so cool and so relaxing to just talk.
Absolutely. And if you guys want to read some of the stuff I've said about this subject, I've got 2 books. One is called From Dude to Dad, and the other is called Diaper Dude. They're both on Penguin Random House. Dude to Dad is basically what men need to know when women are pregnant. Everything from the medical side to the scheduling side to the just, hey, don't worry, don't get freaked out about these things side of it. And then Diaper Dude is essentially kind of like a how-to manual for new fathers between the age of birth and 2. So it's just, again, it's kind of a manual. It's like when something happens, you're like, okay, there's my piece of advice. Or is this weird that this happened? We tell a little anecdote. So I've got 2 books on this particular subject matter. Beyond that, I've got lots of music out there, and I play in a band called the Streetwalking Cheetahs. I play in a band called Blind House. I play with James Williamson and the Pink Hearts, which is James Williamson, the guitarist of Iggy and the Stooges. He's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And then, I also have I directed a documentary movie that's on Amazon Prime right now called Risen, the story of Sharon Hellraiser Smith. It's a documentary about a Wu-Tang rapper that suffered a brain aneurysm. And I basically followed his journey through physical rehabilitation for about 8 years. And I'm finishing up now during all this time at home during the pandemic, my second documentary film, which is about the history of freestyle rap. Okay. So I got lots of work out there. If any of this sounds interesting to people, come find me. It sounds like a bizarre career doing all these weird things that I do, but hey, this is who I am.
Wow. Again, it's a gem. It's just, you're just dropping gems right now. But I just want to thank you. Again, I'm not going to hold you. I'm going to wrap it up. So again, thank you. Thank you so much. And guys, again, thank you for joining me. And like Frank said, sometimes life can hit you hard. Honestly, it can hit you hard. As a dad, we have a tendency to go hard and not breathe at time. Just like Frank said, sometimes we just need to take a step back and just breathe. Breathe and just take in everything that's going on. Breathe and take in your journey of a dad. Breathe and just take how great of a dad that you are. Sometimes we're just so in the mix and forget that to embrace the moment. And I highly encourage that. We need to know how to breathe, when to breathe, how to breathe. And like you said before, to learn how to express. The reason why I have this platform is to allow not only men, I know I'm going to have some women in here as well, but this is definitely a platform for us men to show that we are able to express feelings, emotions, stuff that's been hidden and not been encouraged to express. So I highly encourage this platform that I have. I'm going to continue using it. It's a platform for every dad story from a woman perspective and a guy perspective, but it's to encourage more conversation so we can learn more about each other. So you won't be, I'm surprised this happened. No, like the book that he's written, learn some stuff that you need to learn before it happens. So when it happens, you know how to deal with it. And that's what we need to do. Let's have this conversation more often so we won't be surprised when something else hit us. So again, I just want to thank you so much for all that you're doing and continue doing. Keep yourself busy, which is what you're doing best. And again, I applaud you for what you're doing. I encourage you to continue doing what you're doing. There's always somebody watching, so you're always going to be in best behavior. And I think you're definitely doing that as a dad. So keep yourself busy at all times. And again, I want to say thank you again for your dad journey. Thank you for your story and for being transparent with us. Absolutely.
Well, thank you for having me, man. Thank you for allowing me to share my story on your platform. And you're doing great work, man. You're giving people a voice that maybe are not being heard as much these days, or you're helping this movement of getting these voices heard. So, and the bottom line is anything we can do to help people raise good kids, that's a good thing, man.
Yes. Yes. All right, guys. So I'm not going to keep you any longer. So it was great. It was good. It was amazing. I love this conversation. So guys, I will check you later. Bye. For more Dear Dad podcasts, visit Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. Make sure you check Dear Dad Podcast on your favorite Instagram social media platform at Dear Dad Podcast. Catch you later.